So we come to this beautiful Vishnu Sahasranam section of the Mahabharata. And they said that when the Mahabharata, which is this, it's like an ocean, right? Literally, it has been said that whatever has to be said is there in the Mahabharata. Well, it's said about Veda Vyasa. Anything that can be said or is possible to be known has been said by Veda Vyasa. But in the Mahabharata story, literally everything's there. Every plot, every twist, every villain, every hero, every tragic happening. So it's like this ocean of knowledge. And so when you churn the Mahabharata, there's two pots of nectar or two gems. The first being the Bhagavad Gita, and the second being the Vishnu Sahasranam. And I've been listening to all these other teachers, Swamis, Santa, talking on Vishnu Sahasranam. They get into this which is better mode. The ones who love Vishnu Sahasranam, wow, they get into the whole Vishnu Sahasranam is better, because the one that I really liked, that argument was like, of course I don't believe it, but it's cute, that if Krishna himself took a photo, and then if the photo was taken on Krishna, which would be better? The photo of Krishna is better because we want Krishna. But the photo Krishna took is of something else, so you don't want it. I thought the Bhagavad Gita being by Krishna and Vishnu Sahasranam being on Krishna. But I think what was most notable is that Vishnu Sahasranam purifies us of sin. So 100%. Chanting of the Vishnu Sahasranam purifies us of sin. And this is the very purpose of Yudhishthira going to Bhishmacharya. He felt this immense sense of sin from having caused the war. And that, that's the first thing that Bhishmacharya says to him. In fact, that conversation is so beautiful, which I think I already started on last week, but we're going to go into a little bit more of the conversation, because like I said, Bhagavad Gita we teach on a weekly basis, but Vishnu Sahasranam we don't go into so much as a mission at wide and even just generally so much. So Bhishma's exact words were, my son. Firstly, he uses the words, my son, which is so, so sweet. And then he says, did you think because I was on that side that I too was a villain and so full of adharma? Then don't you remember the conversation you had? And so, I mentioned this. Yudhishthira was ashamed to go to Bhishmacharya because they went to Bhishmacharya last time to ask him how to kill you, which was like, now you go back to the same person. So Bhishma actually mentions this to them when they walk in. And he says, did you forget what I said to you at that point in time when you came to see me? He said that when they asked for blessings, Bhishma said, I blessed you to be victorious. And in doing so, I knew that I would have to fall. It was my choice. And so this really giving Yudhishthira the reassurance that he needed. And Bhishma did. I mean, we spoke about it even at that time when it actually happened. Bhishma literally blesses them with victory. And then he also reiterates to Arjuna that you were happy with the spot of land that fitted on a needle. You were happy with one house. You were happy. Remember the extent to which you went through not to fight this war. You did not cause this war. Now, Bhima had told him, Arjuna had told him, Yudhishthira told, and sometimes when you're in grief, maybe that many people have to tell you, but the amount of specifics that Bhishma went into to really reassure Yudhishthira. But also what was playing in Yudhishthira's mind, which I didn't focus on so much last week, was, see, it all culminated when Kunti said, Karna is your brother. Already there was grief. Don't get me wrong. Already there was grief. But it culminated in Karna is your brother, which I did say last week, but maybe I didn't quite emphasize that Karna was older. So Karna would have been the king. And so what Yudhishthira is feeling is, I don't deserve to be the king. I killed my brother who should have been the king. Yeah. And so already he didn't want to be the king because the war was fought. And now that he found out Karna was his brother, he devastated. And so at that point itself, he is saying these things to Kunti, which she doesn't need to hear because she's already feeling so horrendous. And, and Kunti was standing there watching everybody do the death rites on all the family members, and she sees Karna being neglected because Karna's family wasn't there, right? Karna's sons were killed in the battle along with Karna. So there was nobody to do Karna's death rites. All the Kauravas were also dead, so nobody would do Karna's. And the thought that Kunti has in her mind is, I left him alone his whole life. I'm not going to leave him alone in death. And so she plucks up the courage to say to Yudhishthira. Then Yudhishthira says, but why should I do the rites? And then when she finally says, he's your brother, he's so upset, Yudhishthira is so upset that he's generally such a gentle soul, but everyone has their moments. And he's like, what kind of woman are you? Which of course, Kunti doesn't need to hear at that point in time, right? But then, and maybe this made her feel worse, or maybe this made her feel better. I don't know what his motive was at this point. Maybe, I think at this point when he sees her face, he was trying to make her feel better. He says that in the game of dice, that Karna was terrible at the game of dice. And Yudhishthira, who was quite self-controlled, actually got so angry. And during the game of dice, Yudhishthira sucked it up quite a bit. Like we remember, he kind of just took and the whole idea. It was, he didn't want this battle to happen. That's why he just kept taking it. And at one point, he got so angry with Karna because Karna was really instigated. That he couldn't bear to look at Karna anymore. He was so angry. And this is how beautiful Yudhishthira is. It's like, how angry is he? Can't bear to look at the person's face. Like, so nice to be that's the level of your anger. And he looks down at Karna's feet. And he says that in the moment when he looked at Karna's feet, his anger disappeared. And he couldn't understand why. And then he realized it's because Karna's feet looked like his mother's feet, who he would worship. And it made no sense to him that his anger disappeared by looking at his feet. And he says to Kunti, now, when he's doing when the battle's over, when Kunti's asked him to do his death rite, that I had thought about that moment many times. You know how sometimes in life something happens and it's just, and then it's so unusual that you just remember it from time to time again randomly. And then they were exiled to the forest, so he had so much time to remember these random things. And he said, and it never made sense to me. But this also shows you Yudhishthira, like so angry. He thinks of his mother's feet and anger's gone. Like gone. In game of dice is a normal level of anger. Huh? It's not like I didn't get my coffee the way I like it kind of thing. It's like wife is being disrobed in a public setting kind of anger. And that anger dissipates by seeing mother's feet. Like that which is considered worshipped, that which is considered pure, that which I respect and revere, can remove in a nimisha. The word nimisha is like the blink of an eye, the time it takes in the blink of an eye. Look how pure his mind is. Like the minute it's diverted to something that he holds respect-worthy, anger's gone. Yeah. Like think of the number of times we come to Krishna or Gurudev with them poured out all our anger. Like seeing their face, never mind feet. Seeing their face doesn't take away our anger. Yeah, it's feet, huh? That has taken away Yudhishthira's anger. So, to reassure Yudhishthira that the grief of him becoming the king, Karna not becoming the king, the grief of having lost so many people, Bhishma really reiterates that he has done the right things. At every step of the way, Yudhishthira, you have done the right thing. Even that day when you came to me, you bowed down. And I was so pleased. And Duryodhana mustn't have been bowing down because this is the exact line that Bhishma uses. And then Yudhishthira, as though like, Bhishma, even Krishna is a Kshatriya in that lifetime, because Krishna is also royalty. But it's almost like, now with your grandfather, you can just be a kid. And so he just whinges, literally the wind. It's like, it's so hard being a Kshatriya. You have to kill all the people you love. And that's when Bhishma listens and said, yes, it is very difficult to be a Kshatriya, because in Kshatriya Dharma, you do have to defend what is right, and it does mean sometimes killing. But it is only in Kshatriya Dharma that you get to give as much. Now, this is true about grahasthas. Anyone living grahastha life, that's where you give the maximum. But Bhishmacharya is saying this for Kshatriyas because they had him. So you can give. Kshatriyas had that wealth. They also had the reach, like because they were in charge of, they could give more, they could influence more. So Yudhishthira gets to have his whinge about the horrible bits about being a Kshatriya, and Bhishma then counters it. And then Bhishma talks about the glories of every varna, every path. He goes into, because Yudhishthira as a king, how to support the Shudras, how to support the Vaishyas, how to support the fellow Kshatriyas, how to support the Brahmanas. And so it's really a beautiful teaching that Bhishma goes into. And then this is the last bit where Bhishma talks about, which is very, very nice. He says, so in Vishnu Sahasranam, Yudhishthira's question is, how can I purify myself from sin? Right? What is the greatest dharma I can do? Which I mentioned last week. And he says, chanting. Who is it that I can take refuge in? He pretty much says Lord Vishnu. Specifically here, because Vishnu Sahasranam is dedicated to Mahabharata would fall. Mahabharata is an itihasa. It's not a Purana. But it would fall into the Vishnu. So there's three most important Ishtadevata sections. I'm not sure what the word should be used. So you have Shiva, and then Devi, and then Vishnu. And then everyone else comes under these three broad categories. So even like Ganesh and Kartikeya would come under Devi and Shiva. Hanumanji comes under both Shiva and Vishnu, because he's avatar of Shiva, but worships Vishnu, so he's in both. Not too much in the Devi scriptures, but any form we see will come under these three: Shiva, Devi, Vishnu. And Mahabharata falls under Vishnu section because Krishna being avatar of Vishnu. So here it's saying the most purifying is the form of Lord Vishnu, but it would be whoever is your Ishtadevata. Ishtadevata bias, but here we are talking about Krishna, and specifically Krishna, because Bhishma Pitama, after saying that, the form of Vishnu is the most purified, and he says at the end of it all, he says, and the person next to you, did I say this last week? The person standing next to you is the person I'm talking about. And because he's come as a person, we forget that he is all these things I'm talking about. He says Jagat Prabhu, which means the Lord of the whole universe. Deva Deva, the Lord of all lords. So who is it that I should worship? basically the supreme. This actually the same message comes in the Gita. Who is it we should worship? That which is supreme. So what does this mean? So sometimes we end up worshiping that which is not supreme, in the sense that if you think about it, today we'll worship technology. You're thinking we worship it? Yeah. We glorify it, we give it attention, we give it importance, we put it above. Like, very super simple example, we're busy on our phone and we don't look at the person in front of us. Right? We give technology more important, even though it's a person on the other side of the technology. But sometimes it's a movie, sometimes it's a game, sometimes it's a But yeah, how much? And recently we were doing something and all the kids were like, just use ChatGPT. And it was like, it's so good, it's so amazing, it's the best. We don't have to do anything anymore now. It will do it all for you. We are worshiping. You're saying, no, they're just praising it. What's worshiping that? Have you not noticed what our prayers are now? It's so amazing, it's so good, it's better than anything else. Krishna. You literally translate our hymns. That's what it is. But where do we say it? We'll say it to technology. The other thing we'll say it to is all the sense pleasures. I was thinking today we have to do this write-up. Swamiji's coming to Hong Kong and we have to do these grouping write-ups to make people come for the talk, which is probably harder than giving the talk for someone like me. It's like, let me give the talk. Coming up with these write-ups, it's a different talent mindset. And I kid you not, if you read the write-up of face cream, copy-paste, put it for Swamiji's talk, makes you brilliant, makes you pure, makes like, I'm talking about face cream. Revitalizes, refreshes, increases confidence. All of this is being written about face cream. What are we worshipping? Not the cream. Beauty. Youth. How do we know what we're worshipping? Whatever it is, we are praising. One of the reasons in tradition, most Asian traditions don't praise anything too much. Of course, it got when you're following a certain tradition and you understand the whole thing, it works. But then when you forget the reasoning and it's only half of the culture that's being practiced, then it doesn't. Right? But that's where it originated from. What should be worshipped? Only the Supreme. And how do we worship? In the form of praise. And so here in Vishnu Sahasranam, Jagat Prabhum Jagateva, the Lord of all, the entire universe, the Lord of all lords, Ananta, that which is endless, that which is infinite. Stavannama Sahasrena. And literally that's saying, chant the 1,000 names. Purusha, the first amongst all beings. Sata Tishtataha, which is has our welfare at heart. So these are all the praises that we see Bhishma Pitama giving in the Vishnu Sahasranam. And then very, very meditative also, like Anadi Nidanam Vishnu. Anadi is one that is without a beginning. Sarvaloke Maheshwaram. Again, this phrase comes exactly as it is in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord of all beings, or Maheshwaram is more like, Maheshwaram is the Lord, Sarvaloka is like realms. Like every possible scenario or every possible existence, this is the substratum. So they're quite meditative. The way in which Bhishma Pitama is describing what should be worshipped. And then he ends with, and if you want to make it easy, it's the person standing. next to you. So the way to be able to do this is the Sahasranama. He mentions that a few times. And all of us don't have physically Krishna standing next to us the way Yudhishthira had Krishna physically standing next to him at that point in time. So chant the Sahasranama. And the Sahasranama, it's literally, you can equate it to detergent. So sin is stains on our mind. So if you think of our mind is made up of sattva. Remember, Tattva Bodh, Atma Bodh. If you don't remember, just believe me. Our mind is made up of sattva. Now, sattva is peaceful, joyful, balanced, harmonious, charitable, forgiving. Are we any of these things? Sometimes. Maybe a lot of times. And then jealousy creeps in. Anger creeps in. Hate creeps in. So these things which are not natural to sattva become stains. And then, as we all know, when we drop food on our clothes, how long will the stain stay there? Till you wash it out. Otherwise, it will just stay there. You know, sometimes it's really embarrassing. You drop something at breakfast and then it's there the whole day. So in our mind, these stains form. And how long will it be there? Till you wash it. When will it be washed out? Chant the name of the Lord. There are a few other ways, but this is the most efficient way of just to remove stain. However, to remove the tendency that created the stain, so the chanting removes the stain. But then we do it again. And we do it again. Then we have to chant again. It sounds like our everyday life, right? Wake up every morning, bath. Why? Because you got dirty. Wake up every morning, wash clothes. Why? Yesterday's clothes are dirty. Why? Obviously, we should wake up every morning and chant because yesterday we dirtied our mind. But at some point, you want to be able to get to, just don't dirty it. And this is where that whole debate about which is better, Vishnu Sahasranam and Bhagavad Gita, I'm going to go with Bhagavad Gita. Because ignorance is what continues to make us sin. And so to destroy the sinna in us, you need knowledge. And so the thing that's the most purifying is knowledge. But knowledge takes reflection, takes time, has levels of understanding. So in the meantime, chant. And so then there's this whole debate about chant 100 names one time or chant just one name 100 times because I don't know the 100 names. Actually, it's 1,000. I'm saying 100. And basically, it doesn't matter. Truth be told, chant one name 1,000 times. Very good. Chant 1,000 names one time. Very good. What does matter is you're paying attention while you're doing it. So since chanting one name 1,000 times, for many people, they're not paying attention. After the 12th time, they're now thinking about, pakora or latest song, or, this AC is too high. Something, the mind will get distracted. But if you're chanting 1,000 different names, you have to pay attention which name comes next now. Even if you've memorized it, you have to pay attention which name comes now, because if you're not alert, it goes in a loop because there's many repetitions of names. And then so sometimes it happens in Hanuman Chalisa, no? Then you're like, wait, didn't I already say that? So if you're not paying attention, so some people prefer Sahasranam because you're doing different names and so you're more focused. Some people are like, you know what, it's too hard to focus on so many names and pronounce so many and learn so many names. Can I just do one? Yes, fine. But make sure you stay focused. So which one should you do? Stay focused. Do whatever you want to do, whichever God you want to do, whichever mantra you want to do, but stay focused. Why? Because the purification happens when the mantra has that presence of mind that charges. Will it work even if it doesn't? Yes, but not as effectively. Will it work if I don't know the meaning? Yes, but not. You'll benefit more if you know. Good. We're good on Vishnu Sahasranam. Okay, great. So then Bhishmacharya elaborates further by saying that the memory of this, so Yudhishthira, the war has happened and the war is over. It's this memory that has become the stain in your mind that is continuing to torment you now. And so what you have to let go of is that memory. And I think this I did focus on last week, where I said, grief is fine, and we can miss people, and we can love them, and we can wish they were around. But when it stops us from functioning, it's no longer fun. Especially in Yudhishthira's case, because it's the whole kingdom's waiting for direction. It's not just one person for that. So much responsibility on him. But the whole kingdom has been waiting while this war has been happening to be given next step to do, to have something to look forward to. And then that responsibility falls on Yudhishthira. So he had to take up the position of the king. There's also a very interesting snippet of information that I came across. I don't know if this is 100% true. I usually don't say it unless I know it's true, unless it has some value. Right? Like sometimes bhakti things, it's cute. And sometimes it makes you laugh. Officially, scriptures allow you to say things that are not true and not useful. It makes other people laugh. So then I can say. This was very beautiful in the message. So even if it's not true, the bhav or the sentiment of it is true. So the 5 Pandavas, along with Draupadi, Dhritarashtra, and Gandharva, and Krishna, all go to Bhishmacharya. And Krishna has told Yudhishthira, ask, right, all these questions, because Bhishma is a fountain of knowledge, and we need to benefit from this knowledge. And at that point, Bhishma himself said, well, Krishna should be the one answering. We'll come back to that. And Draupadi kind of a little bit whispers under her breath to Yudhishthira, you're asking him what is dharma, you sure he knows the answer? Because he was there at the beginning of times when I asked, what is dharma? So she wasn't being catty, or she wasn't being, because she literally asked Bhishmacharya, tell me what is dharma. That's why I said I'm not sure if it's 100% true. I tried to verify, and I don't know if it's there in authentic. It could be, it could be there, but it also could be that it's interpretation. Bhishma Pitama doesn't get hurt, hears her, because she's close enough. And he doesn't get offended. Instead, he replies, my daughter, I had eaten the salt, which is a line we hear often. Like, why did Bhishma Pitama fight on the side of the Kauravas? He had eaten the salt of the Hastinapur for so long that he was indebted to them. I had eaten the salt of the Kauravas for so many years that it had created impurities in me, meaning I had to fight them. And not that he's thinking got impure, but to some extent he's thinking, he wouldn't say it was impure. He lost alertness. Like younger Bhishma Pitama was so clued on. And then he kind of thought, okay, everything's good. And so he didn't catch the Duryodhana's flaws. And that's one of the reasons Krishna tells Bhishma to teach. He said, you have this knowledge and you were supposed to groom the next king of Hastinapur, and you haven't had a fit student yet. Right? He had Vichitravir who died very young, the brother died young. What was his name? Chitragatna. And then Vichitravir, who wasn't a dynamic king at all, so there was no point in teaching him. And then there was Pandu, who was a great king, but then he died also very young. Like, you haven't had someone to pass all this knowledge down to. So yeah, you have Yudhishthira, who is such a fit student to learn all the art of kingship from you. So anyway, Draupadi's comment, and Bhishmacharya said, I've eaten their salt for so long that I have gotten their impurities. But then on the battlefield, Arjuna shot all these arrows at me. Because remember, he's lying there on the bed of arrows. And all that impurities have leaked out with the blood. So now, my daughter, don't worry. Whatever I say is pure. Jayadari says, it's like he is repented. He is purified by the pain he's felt. And he felt immense pain. So we have that. Bhishma Pitama is fit to teach this Vishnu Sahasrama. Even the mistakes he did make, he has cleansed himself of it. And Krishna will always find a fit instrument. Krishna doesn't keep the glory for himself. Like in the Mahabharata war, the most glorious hero is Arjuna. Actually, Krishna is as skilled a warrior, but he didn't fight. He gave the glory to Arjuna to fight. The most glorious king is described as Yudhishthira. Krishna is as glorious. He's guided Yudhishthira every step of the way. But he gives that glory of the kingdom to Yudhishthira. The glory of a teacher to give this knowledge is given to Bhishma Pitama. What does he keep? Gandhavri's curse. He doesn't keep glories. And here we are. How to purify ourselves? Glorify him. And why should he be the only one we glorify? He doesn't keep. If you glorify somebody who keeps it, problem. You're only creating the problem. But he didn't keep. So we see the Vishnu Sahasranam is taught, and then once Bhishma Pitama finishes all these teachings after 5 days, he and Krishna have this wonderful dialogue where Krishna says, amongst all men that have lived, there have only been 2 that have been able to command death. Death is literally standing there with hands folded, waiting. When you say only, I can act. But the rest of us, we begging death. 1 minute, please. No, don't make it painful. Okay, take me, but don't make it painful. Or we just horrified at even the idea of death. There's only 2 men who have been able to command death. And that is Bhishma Pitama and Markandeya Rishi. We just spoke about in Gita class yesterday. Also a boon given by Lord Shiva. So he dies, he chooses the very moment. He asks Krishna to stand in front of him. Looking at Krishna, he then closes his eyes and a beam of light from within him comes out. Now, they say this and then they show it in the TV episodes also, and we really thinking some beam of light comes out. But please, we are Vedantic students. We know that Chit is inside, outside, all pervading, and there's no light going from anywhere to anywhere because it's all pervading, so there's no movement. But this is more to depict that Krishna had promised Bhishma moksha. And so the idea that the promise is maintained. In some versions it says it leaves and goes up to the sky, in some version it says it enters into Krishna, that he dies with a smile on his face. And so not only could he command death, such a beautiful piece. after this horrendous war where every death was so terribly violent and so filled with heartache, we have here Bhishma Pitama smiling and happy because he's looking at Krishna. And he's spent his last 5 days glorifying Krishna. And he's chanted the Vishnu Sahasranam to purify himself before leaving. And so he's done absolutely everything right. And so once Bhishma Pitama does leave the physical body, again, the Pandavas are a little bit sad because, this is like yet another loss. Even though it's a nicer one, it's yet another loss. But they go back into the kingdom and immediately Krishna comes and tells Yudhishthira, you need to do an Ashwamedha Yajna. Why? Because you'll need to get busy. There's no other thing. There's no other way. Otherwise, you just stay in grief. So busy. And Ashwamedha Yajna is huge. Huh? If you remember, it's a lot of things happening. But there's 2-3 dialogues that happen between Krishna and Yudhishthira that I want to go to. And a lot of the times in the Mahabharata, I haven't gone into dialogue and stayed to the story because you want to know what happens next. But this is worth it. So this is now between Krishna and Yudhishthira. So he says, you must now contend. Krishna is saying to Yudhishthira, you must now contend with the most powerful of all enemies, your mind. The only weapon in this battle is knowledge, and you have no army to assist you. And this is why in that whole comparison between Vishnu Sahasranam and Bhagavad Gita, what actually helps you to fight the war? Because ultimately our battle is our own mind. Even if we're fighting a battle outside, and even before the physical war, Arjuna had to deal with his mind. Now the war's over, Yudhishthira has to deal with his mind. Any given point in time, the biggest battle we ever have to fight is the one within our own mind. And the only weapon we have, Krishna said, only weapon we have is knowledge. How come chanting wasn't given? Doesn't win. Chanting is pause, regroup, reconfigure. Very good. Won't win the battle. Only thing that wins the battle when our mind is divided is knowledge. And the conviction, that knowledge really, really has to have conviction. And then he goes further to say, I'm not going to go into this as elaborately, but I did want to mention. Krishna explains that one desiring liberation, and the goal of life is moksha, and it is Yudhishthira's goal of life. We might not think it's our goal, but it was definitely Yudhishthira's goal. Even if we don't know it's our goal, it's our goal. Because we want to be happy. So for one who is desiring liberation, the most important thing to do is detachment from to be free from both attachment and aversion, which is detachment, to material objects. Material, here referring to body. Again, this is why Gita is so good. All of these messages echoed in the Gita. But if you want to make any progress spiritually, there has to be some amount of detachment from our body. To the extent that we can, to that extent, we grow. So then, Yudhishthira starts with the Ashwamedha Yajna and setting up kingdom. And Arjuna says to Krishna, we fought the whole battle, but I was so busy fighting, I didn't really get to spend time with you. So we go back to Indraprastha and live in the Maya Sabha. That house that they built in Indraprastha. Because right now they've all moved into Hastinapur, main palace. So just Arjuna and Krishna go off for like a good 5 weeks, huh? Not like a weekend. Why? They just want to catch up and and what did they do in this time? Well, they went horse riding, they went on walks. They had some really nice conversations. One of the conversations, Krishna says to Arjuna, do you remember what I taught you before the battle? And Arjuna kind of went, no, I don't. He doesn't make excuses for himself in this version, but I've read versions where he was like, the battle was about to start. Bhishma had blown his conch, and then Bhim was throwing here, and there was so much. The Gandiva bow was falling, and then how do you expect me to remember what you taught? But in this version, he doesn't make any excuses. Krishna asks, do you remember? And he's like, really embarrassed when he says, no, I don't remember. And then this is what happens when it's your friend. He's like, can you teach me again? Very, very shamelessly, he asks, can you please teach me again? Because, I want to remember, but I don't remember. And this is like the first time you see Krishna being a little bit strict with Arjuna. I'm very disappointed you don't remember. Like, you should have remembered. Do you think I can just repeat that again now for you? It's like it's not on demand just because I'm Krishna. You can't just make me spread the Gita any minute you want to. Having said that, he goes ahead and teaches. And he doesn't teach it in quite the same way that he had taught it during that time before the war. And that's why what he taught before the war really was so succinct, so precise, so profound that it stands out as the Gita. What he teaches now is still available in Mahabharata, but it doesn't get taught as a separate script. And it definitely isn't as much detail or depth. So, but he does guide Arjuna on how to live. But this was the best bit. After finishing all of it, it even says here that Arjuna gets distracted while Krishna is talking, thinking, Krishna speaks so well. So yet again, he's not going to remember everything because he's getting distracted by his own love for Krishna, but still, the knowledge will still get a little bit escaped. Then finally, Krishna ends with, we need to remember this line. If you have any love for me whatsoever, referring to all of us as well, but he's saying this to Arjuna, specifies Arjuna's name. You will lead your life according to these instructions. So we really hope Arjuna followed and understood the instructions. Which instructions? The Gita. If you have any love for me whatsoever. Kind of pinches, doesn't it? Like, how many of those instructions are we following? The first one was titiksha. Are we following? Do not breathe. Are we following? Be detached. That's every chapter, huh? He didn't give that instruction once. He gave that instruction so many times. Okay, that we can't do, then this bit can do. Always remember your actual identity as a soul and remain fixed in rendering service to the Supreme. This is the summary. If you can't do anything else, what does Krishna want you to do? If you love Krishna, you will remember you are soul and not body. So he's emphasized this twice. He's emphasized this to Yudhishthira, telling Yudhishthira you have to rule the kingdom, and if you want liberation, you have to detach from physical body, which means live your life remembering you are a soul. Second, serve the Supreme. And so much emphasis on serve, 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 serve. We can serve in so many ways. Of course, we can serve in all the different charitable acts that exist in this world. It's very different when you're serving Krishna, Hanuman, Veda. You're serving that divinity as divinity. In fact, it can be going to Red Cross and giving blood. Why? It's Krishna's work. It can be just going to Red Cross and giving blood. Nice thing to do. I'm a nice person. There's a significant difference in that same action. Are we seeing it? Are we seeing the Supreme? We have to recognize this supremeness of Sat manifesting here as Krishna. To which Arjuna's answer is so beautiful. Arjuna answers, I don't know if I can remember the Supreme Krishna, but you are the Supreme. You know, definitely remember you every single day of my life. To me, that's it. And so we see this very different Arjuna. Before the battle, Arjuna wasn't so convinced Krishna was the Supreme. Kind of had an idea, inclination, but not completely. But then he saw Vishwarupa Darshan, plus he saw in and through all the battles so much that he has done. Then Krishna asked Arjuna for a favor, because every time Arjuna would even hint that he wanted to go back to Dwarka, Yudhishthira would start crying. And then Krishna couldn't leave when Yudhishthira was crying. It's almost like Krishna's as soft as Yudhishthira. Yes and no, because we'll see that Krishna can be immensely detached. He does a lot for his devotees. Arjuna, like, never mind Yudhishthira crying. Just at the request, Arjuna is almost like, you know, very turned white and like, oh, you have to go. And it's really, really cute. But Krishna says, I haven't seen my parents who have aged in however many months. I haven't seen my wives, my children. So Arjuna starts feeling a little bit bad. Especially when he says, your parents who have aged. So you see how Krishna never forgets anything. The Lord never forgets anything. And then he even says, they all would have been grieving Abhimanyu, but I haven't been there for them. They've also lost people in this battle. Abhimanyu wasn't the only one. So again, Arjuna starts feeling bad. And he was about to, like, a little bit, but, and Krishna doesn't allow him to speak. And Krishna says, do you remember when the war was over and I asked you to step off the chariot? Do you remember what I said? And you all won't remember because I didn't tell you. But Arjuna was there, so he remembers, fortunately. When the chariot burnt, and Arjuna looked questioningly at Krishna, one of the answers was so many curses, so many divine astras that hit him, respect to all those astras, that they should have its consequences. And then Krishna says, Now that it has served its purpose, it is no longer required. I did tell you all that? No, but you're nodding. Because it's so logical, right? Now that it served its purpose, it's no longer required. Now, Arjuna is not going to say, but. Now Arjuna is scared. Because what's Krishna saying? I have served my purpose. I am no longer required. You have to let me go. Arjuna must have actually turned right at this point. So Krishna immediately says, not of my birth, just here in Hastinapur for this battle. But he was preparing Arjuna. Because it's soon. And this line, when it has served its purpose, it is no longer required. It's not a sad line. It's a really powerful and empowering line. Because when things come to an end in our lives, it's so easy for us to grieve the loss of it. But if we understand it served its purpose, and it's time to let it go, something else will now come because that's purpose itself. But also for things that have really been tedious and difficult for us to endure or to deal with or to overcome. How to get rid of it? Whatever purpose it's serving, just get there very quickly. So often life will give a challenge. And then it stays. Or it repeats. Why? Purpose hasn't been served. And so, you're trying to get rid of something. What purpose is it serving? Once that purpose has been served, it will end. And whenever one thing ends, opens up space, time, energy for the next thing that is meant to come along. Okay, we won't do anything sad. Anyway, another 15 years before Krishna actually leaves. He's just preparing them. Because, nothing much drastic happens in those 15 years. So where are we now? Yudhishthira is preparing for Ashwamedha Yajna. He has settled down becoming the king. Oh, this is very cute. Bhim was very excited about Yudhishthira doing the Ashwamedha Yajna. Why? Because finally Yudhishthira smiled. Bhim, who gave Yudhishthira so much grief for the 12 years they were in exile, is happy to finally see Yudhishthira smile. Their relationship is really too cute. Nakula and Sahadev also helping Yudhishthira get everything back in order, while Arjuna and Krishna were having a staycation in the old house. Because they old house. What else was happening? Gandhavri and Dhritarashtra stayed in the palace with Yudhishthira and the Pandavas. Kunti continued to serve him along with Sanjaya. Vidur still hasn't returned. Next week he'll return. I've sent him in. Did I forget anyone? Draupadi is in the palace, along with Subhadra. Who wasn't in the palace before. Draupadi is in the palace with Yudhishthira. All the Pandavas were in Hastinapur in their own. I didn't mention this last week. They each got their own palaces. No, I didn't mention. I think I did. So Draupadi, of course, continues her 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. But Dhritarashtra and Gandharva and Kunti were in Yudhishthira's family. Okay. We pause here for today. Any questions? Yeah.
So we heard Bhishma Pitama gave that metaphor of I ate the salt, so I got impure and then it came out. So what was it actually that got the salt?
What was it that got him to sin?
Not to be able to catch all of the because he used to be so alert.
He used to be alert. What made Bhishma Pitama unalert? I'm not exactly sure. From my limited understanding, there was a certain amount of grief in his heart, Bhishma Pitama's heart, that he had to live with this burden of ensuring the next king doing a good job. And he felt very bound by it. So, if he didn't have the boon that he could choose his own death, he would have died by now. But because he felt this, Pandu wasn't able to rule, Dhritarashtra wasn't able to rule. Before that, Vichitravyuha wasn't able to rule. Before that, he was ruling, but he wasn't meant to be ruling. And so there was this continuous sense of responsibility, which maybe to him felt a little bit never ending, possibly. And so there was that little bit grief of the burden of responsibility. You do see traces of that in the dialogue of the Mahabharata. There was also a sense of the Dhritarashtra would say the right things, and Vidur was there, and Vidur was amazing. So Vidur had his finger on the pulse. And so Bhishma Pitama felt like, okay, someone's on it. And someone was on it. Vidur really did completely catch on to every single thing that was happening. But Vidur was the son of the servant, and he didn't have the same pull as Bhishma Pitama had. But Bhishma Pitama thought the Dhritarashtra was okay because the Dhritarashtra was saying all the right things. And Vidur was there to guide. And the Dhritarashtra did have a great love for Vidur, but didn't always listen. So Bhishma Pitama didn't see that the Dhritarashtra was listening. Only saying what he knew he should be saying. So there was that little bit of like, okay, Vidur's got it. Those were the two things I can think of that led to it.
Time them together, like when he's finding this job so heavy, and he's seeing something that's okay, maybe these are okay. So then you want to see more confirmation bias, friends.
It seems to be that. And ultimately in the Mahabharata, Mahabharata is written from a fatalistic point of view. It was destiny. It was what was meant to be. If you see, the initial story starts with two sisters. What were their names? Mother of the snakes and the mother of Garuda and Aruna. Do you remember the names? Vinita and what was her name? They have this sibling rivalry with each other that becomes this Domino effect, domino effect. You're looking at me very surprised. I have not told you all this story. Wait, what was I going to say? What did you just say? Huh. And so this is something like 6 generations before Bhishma Pitama is even born, where they have already said the war is going to happen. So it's like it was going to happen. And so whatever didn't Bhishma Pitama had to have not noticed. Otherwise the war wouldn't have happened. Bhishma Pitama acted differently to what he did, it would have not been a war. But the war had to have happened because it was fated to happen. There's very much that theme of the Mahabharata. Whether you want to agree with it or not, totally free will. But Mahabharata has that sense of. And so it's the whole, even the churning of the Milky Ocean comes in the Mahabharata story. And all the asuras take birth as the Kauravas, and all the devatas take birth as Pandavas. And so literally the Mahabharata war is another churning of the Milky Ocean. Same participants, different bodies, different names. It's like all the same actors. And so why didn't Bhishma Pitama act differently? Couldn't have. It was meant to be that way. Will be the final answer. Which I haven't taken that point of view when I've taught the Mahabharata. Because I feel if we go in there thinking that way, we don't understand the nuances of how things work. And the more we understand, whether there is destiny and free will, it doesn't matter. The more we understand, we can get moksha. Then the world's destiny can be the world's destiny, and I'm out of here. Somebody else can play the role. Next season, this actor is out. So remember, that's the main purpose, yes, to get motion. Freedom exists, destiny exists. Yes, I answered it.
What's the story?
You want the story of the 2 sisters? Well, they didn't like each other. They were always competing. So I think in one, Vinita one, can't remember the other sister's name. If you want, we can do it in more detail next class. But this is basically while the churning of the Milky Ocean was going on, the mother of the snakes said that, so all the animals, all of creation actually came out of the Milky Ocean. So each creature one by one got created out of the churning. There's so many different ways in which the story is told. And in the Mahabharata, it's told as almost like creation theories. So the horse, the white horse of Indra, whose name is Airava, thank you, I remember, was supposed to come out next. And they knew which is going to come out next because of this whole thing of we know what's going to happen. And so this sister tells Vinita that I think this time round, he'll come out with a black tail. And then she says, he never comes out with a black tail. Every single yuga, he's completely white. We all know Bhairava is completely white. And so she says, let's take a bet. And this one agrees, let's take a bet. And they were betting whoever loses will go into 500 years of slavery for the other one. 500 years is not much in Mahabharata. It's a blink of an eye. The story goes on for eons and eons and eons and eons. So she decides to cheat. She tells her kids, who are snakes, who are black, to wrap themselves around the tail of the horse. And then her kids say, no, we don't want to cheat. And she says, you useless children, you're not going to help me. I curse you all to all be burnt in the And the Janmani Jaya's fire sacrifice. And then Vinita finds out about this, that she was tricked into 5 years of slavery. And she also curses something to do with the Mahabharata. I will check the details and get back to you next week. But Vinita does curse back. I hope her name is Vinita. This is Garuda and Aruna's mother. Y'all know who's Aruna? The Dawn. The one driving the chariot for Surya Devata. Dawn. Dawn before sunrise. Am I saying it right? Dusk. Dawn. No, it's dawn. D-A-W-N. Aruna is the dawn. No, Nadia didn't mark your dawn. No, and then Vinita actually got excited for this baby to be born, and she breaks the shell, and so only the top half was developed and the bottom half wasn't developed, and so basically he was crippled, and so he was given the job of driving the chariot for Surya Devata. And then because she broke the shell and he wasn't fully active, he also curses her that you will be a slave for 500 years, which then works out very well because her sister says in the bet that, you have to be a slave, and then she got tricked, and so then both of them get. Very stressful. Very stressful. That's why I don't do them. That's why I don't do these stories. But already knew that. They already knew even then that the Mahabharata war was going to happen. Family feuds is a recurring theme in the Mahabharata. Yeah.
Name of the system.
What is it? Tadru. Correct, that's the name. Thank you. Vinita and Kadru, right? Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadram ma kaschit dukkha Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jagate Gamaya Metyarma Amritam Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamidachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnamidachyate.